Hi there, and welcome to Stamping in the Barnyard. My name is Bethany Barnard, and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. And last year on my YouTube channel, I did a series of projects in a series called 12 Weeks to a Wow Christmas with Bethany and Leela. If you missed those last year, I hope you checked them out. And I hope that you would look forward to 12 projects this year and that you would hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of them. This is the first one. It's a Christmas card. It says warm wishes on the front and a polar bear marching through this snowy weather and coming upon his friend or family. Christmas is better together. And this little arm comes down when the card is opened. It's a fun card. It's not too difficult. And I have used the Memories and More cards and envelopes that are in the mini catalog on page 22 and 23. All of these products that I'm sharing with you that we use on this card are part of the Beary Christmas suite. These are the Memories and More cards and envelopes. I love them. They're sturdy. There's 10 of the Balmy Blue with the snowflakes and 10 of the real red with this knit look and these trees on the front. So you get 20 cards and envelopes for $10. But the thing I really like about them is, aside from being very sturdy, the envelopes are very hardy if you want to put a gift card in them or something more. They are actually bigger than our usual cards. Our usual cards are 5.5 by 4.25, but these are 6.25 by 4.25, which gives you more room to play and decorate. So I love that about these cards. Additionally, we'll be using some of the designer series paper from the Beary Christmas suite. We're going to use the bundle Beary Cute from that suite. We're going to use the embossing folder with the snow. That's also part of that suite. And we're going to be using these adhesive-backed glitter sequins, which you can see maybe not so much on the front because they're kind of clear and sparkly, and I'm not sure how well it's showing up on the camera, but also these balmy blue ones on the inside. So we use everything that's available in that suite except for the Memories and More card packs with images on them and the beautiful Balmy Blue glimmery ribbon, which will probably show up in a future project before we get to Christmas. But those are all the projects that we're using today. And I am going to make a couple small changes on our card using the same materials that I just showed you. But I hope that in the comments you'll let me know what you think of some of the changes that I make on this card. So as I said, we're going to be using this Beary Cute bundle. And the two ink colors that we're going to use are the Balmy Blue and the Misty Moonlight. So just the two ink colors. I will have below the prepping that you can do if you want to work alongside to make this card. I'll have all the dimensions and sizes and scoring that you'll need to be able to make this card. And then you can just have them near you and make the card along with me on the video and hit pause as necessary, etc. I did want to say that this particular card is a card that I made at our recent holiday stamp camp, and all of the guests wanted to have instructions on how to make this card and repeat it because they had so much fun with this. And I promised them that I would make this video for them. So here we are. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to need is actually a base, a card base. So here's the Balmy Blue card base. And then you're going to need some designer series paper for the inside of the card. And I did use these snowflakes for this one, but this is one of the changes I'm thinking about. I think I may turn it around and have these polar bear footprints as the background. I think that'll be fun. That's going to be one of the first things we adhere inside the card. And this needs to be cut at 4 by 6. And then we're going to have, for the mechanism that causes that arm to come down, we have this piece that's 4 by 2.5, scored at 1, 2, and 3 inches. And then we have this arm that we're going to stamp the Merry Christmas on and put the polar bear on. And it's 3/4 of an inch by 4 inches. As I said, all of these dimensions are going to be in the bottom. The trickiest part is going to be this piece to the mechanism. It starts out as just a 4 by 1 or a 1 by 4 piece of cardstock, scored at 1/2, 1 1/4, and 3 1/4. But I am actually going to be doing a little bit more to this with a stylus when the time comes, but it's not difficult. And then this is a 1 1/2 by 1 1/2 square, but 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 would work as well. And then we have a 2 3/4 by 4 3/4 white piece and a 3 by 5 or a 5 by 3 mat for that piece that will go on. And then we have these new deckled circle dies are also in the mini catalog, and we are using these to put our greeting on the front. And then this is a 4 by 6 piece of Very Vanilla, which I already ran through the embossing folder to give it that snowflake look that we will be putting on here when we make the card. And is that everything? Oh, the last thing is you'll need a scrap of paper. Now, something to note is that the Memories and More card pack, the envelope is vanilla. So I've used the vanilla to do the background here of snow coming down. But I think this is where I'm going to make another one of the changes. I'm actually going to stamp the polar bear in the white rather than the vanilla, because I think it will make him pop more. And also when you get to the inside of the card, this is all white. So I wanted to pick up that white on the inside. So that's why I did it that way. So the change is I'm thinking about putting this DSP on in using this side rather than the snowflakes. And I also am thinking of using Whisper White for my outside polar bear as much as I did white on the inside here, which makes sense. But I'm doing it in vanilla. Instead of vanilla on the outside, I'm going to do them in white as well. So I'd like to know what you think of that. All right, let's get started. So the first thing that we want to do, and I hope I said this already, but I will have all those measurements in the description. I will probably also put a timestamp of when I actually started making the card, and also a timestamp of when on this piece of the mechanism, when I prepare it, because that's something that's easier if you see it on the camera. So we'll put those together and I'll have that included in the description below. All right, so the easy thing to start with is by just taking your snowflake image and placing it on the front of your card base. So I am just going to use my trusty liquid glue, my favorite. There's no turning back now. Once I get this start putting glued pieces together, whatever I say or mistakes I make are going to be part of the finished video. It's always a scary thought. I'm going to put the snow piling up this time. Last time I put the heavier snow at the top, thinking that where it's more blank here would make sense because the other snow was on the ground. And we kind of had this discussion at my stamp camp, and we agreed that it really works either way. So then I'm also going to take my deckled circles here and my Balmy Blue ink. Whoops. get ink on you right away and it's going to show up on your card. Okay. And we're going to do the warm wishes and put that right on the deckled vanilla. There we go. And then I'm going to put that on the 1-up size of deckled circle in the Balmy Blue. And then we're going to put that up with dimensionals. Not the vanilla on the blue, but the whole greeting once it's mounted on the blue. So I'm just going to use 3 dimensionals. 1, and now okay. I want to use that one that the backing just came off on. 2 and 3 in a triangle. This stamp set is really a good stamp set because it comes with, in addition to 3 different bears, it's got presents and a tree and snowflakes and 3 different greetings. So it's just a great set. Okay, and then on this 4x6 piece, as I said, I'm going to turn this over and go ahead with these footprints. Which way would these footprints be going? I'm going to put it in like this on the inside. But that's the beauty of these patterns on the double-sided DSP. You can do whatever color you want. I chose the snowflakes first because of the snowflakes that are actually on the coordinating envelopes. But I also thought it made sense that if he's traveling and stomping through the snowy weather, that he would have footprints in the snow. So wanted to make one of each. Okay, now you do have to put that designer series paper in before we start working on the mechanism. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and stamp our 2 bears that coordinate with the punch, and we'll punch them out. And I'm going to stamp them in Misty Moonlight. And we are going to need 2 bears. So we have 1 and 2. And we have to put a scarf on them. Now this does come with a hat as well, but I can't just punch them out with the punch with the hat on because it would punch the hat right off. And so for the sake of time, which when we start making lots of Christmas cards, time does matter. So I'm going to go ahead and put these scarves on, and I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Balmy Blue. And it's pretty easy to line up these scarves. And then we're going to punch them out. One we're going to have to save for later. And one we're going to put right on the front. But I do like the way this comes up much whiter across the vanilla. One of the ladies at the stamp camp actually did that by accident, and she didn't like it, and she switched it. But when I saw hers, I thought, oh, I really like that. So I decided I was going to do it this way on purpose today. But we're going to put these, well, one of them aside. And I'm going to go ahead and put this one up on dimensionals as well. So we take and put about 3, I guess I'll do 4. 4 dimensionals on the back of our polar bear. Okay. All right, we'll just put him coming through like this here. And that's the front of our card. And here's our inside, which is what we're going to work on next. Well, we can go ahead and stamp. We can stamp this 2 3/4 by 4 3/4, and then mount it on this 5 by 3 matte piece, because that way we get more of our pieces stamped and ready to go. So I'm going to stamp Christmas is Better Together in Misty Moonlight. Keep wanting to call this Midnight Muse. Some of you might remember when we had an ink called Midnight Muse. But Misty Moonlight came back. I do like this color. Christmas is Better Together. And then we're going to have our little polar bear who's sitting here waiting for his friend to show up. So cute. Who thinks of Coca-Cola when you see these polar bears at Christmas time? And he's got to have a scarf too. With these other colors, I am realizing I could pick up some of that real red. But since I didn't bring that color to me here at this station where I'm filming, we're going to go ahead and stick to the Balmy Blue. And then I'm going to put this on this matte. You really do not need to use a lot of the liquid multi-purpose glue because it sticks really honestly better than any other adhesive that I've come across, and surely any other adhesive that Stampin' Up! Has available in their catalog. So, okay, so I'm going to just put this aside until we get the mechanism made. And as I said, the mechanism really is not that difficult. I have already, because I had several of these left over from Stamp Camp, I hope that you can see these score marks, but, well, I can actually simulate it even still on my scoring board because I'm going to be scoring some of these other pieces for you to see. I'll get that out and put this aside. And so understand that this is 4 inches by 2.5 inches, and then literally you just score it 1, 2, and 3. And once you've done that, you're just going to fold. I like to use my bone folder for these score lines. On each one of those score lines, which is 3 score lines, and that will give you, you can see that if you put it together, you have this square. And then you're going to take your very first panel and put your glue on it. And then so you've got your glue on the first panel, and you're going to put it just to the left of the score of your card base. Just like that. You don't want to go over that score line, just to the left of that score line. Okay, and you have that flat, but just that first panel is glued down. Now, you're going to fold it in half so that the end meets up with this. And you're going to put your adhesive on that last panel here. Any guesses what you're going to do next? If you guessed shut the card, you're exactly right. So now we're going to close that up. And there we go. And then I always like to open the card again and, you know, flatten it again to just make sure it's shutting and opening just fine. And it is, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is you're going to take your little square. By the way, these things aren't really seen that much, so it doesn't matter what color they're in. I like to choose something that won't be so obvious if people do look down there and see. But then from this white piece, square, and again, this is totally eyeballed. You know, you can start out by just cutting out, you know, one quadrant. You're actually looking to make an L shape, but I have found, my experience has been that to go a little bit deeper than a full quarter of that works better on this arm. And we're going to use it as a backward L, just so you know. And I'm going to put that piece aside. I'm going to also put it on the back of this card so that you can see it better there. Because now here's that tricky piece I was telling you about. So this is the piece that's 4 by 1, and we're going to score it at, yep, I'm putting this right on top of my card because it should lay flat anyway. Okay, so I'm putting it and scoring at 1/2 an inch. Here, 1/2 inch, and then again at 1 1/4, which is 3/4 of an inch away from this 1/2. And then you're going to do it again at 3 1/4. Are you seeing that? Let me make sure that's in the camera. So 1/2, 1 1/4, and 3 1/4. Now we're not done with this piece, but that's the scoring that you would do either on your trimmer or on your scoring Simply Score, which by the way, I love my Simply Score. Okay, I'm getting these confused, the card that I already did and the card I'm working on now. And then you want to take, I like this ruler, it's got kind of a metal edge. It doesn't have to be exact, but I think this works pretty well. And what you're going to do is you're going to come up. You want the piece that has 2 score marks over to the right is the best way I can think of to tell you this. This is just going to get bent back. And you'll see why. And this one is going to, let me see if I did that right. This is going to get bent back. This is going to be that. Yep. I got it. Okay. Yep, I'm doing it right. And this is going to be bent back. Or folded back. I guess we don't say bent, do we? Okay, so on this second score line from the side here, you're going to come up 1/4 inch. I feel like this would look better if I had something dark. Let's see what we got here. Here, we'll do it on the back of this red card, so that we don't have white on the white grid paper. So on this score mark, write it 1/4 inch. I say write it 1/4 inch, but I can't stress enough that it doesn't have to be exact, but it is worth measuring. So I hope you can see I just made a little dimple there with my scoring tool. And then here I don't want to mess up my cardstock, so I'm going to go back to the white. But what I'm going to do, I'll take it up here and hopefully you'll see it here, is I'm now going to make my ruler go from that dimple that I made up to the corner of this fold, this first fold. So I'm going to do a line that goes from here to there. I hope that makes sense. And what I do is I put the stylus on that dimple, and then I butt the ruler up to it, and then I put my stylus to that corner. And again, once my ruler's butted up to both of those, I know I can do that line. Okay, so there we go. And then we're going to come 3/4 inch to the left of this score line, and I'm going to make another dimple at the top at that point. Okay, and now I'm going to just repeat the same thing on the other side. So basically you're going 3/4 of an inch from either side of this line and up 1/4 of an inch from the bottom here. And you're just making a right angle is what you end up with. Do you see that? Here and here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold it. And then on those lines that you just made, those diagonal lines that you just made, you're going to bend it back. And the way this works is when this comes up, we're going to put this arm in here. And so when it's shut, the arm is going to be like this, but then when you open it, it's going to come down this way. It'll make more sense when we put it together. You do want to make sure, do you see how I have this slightly higher here and it's coming across the edge? You do want to just pull that down, make that straight, because as much as you can make this perpendicular, you want to. It just makes a difference in whether or not the arm, how well the arm comes down straight. Okay, now the next tricky part, which I don't think is tricky, but others might, is you're gonna, again, you're just eyeballing it. So you're gonna come to the opposite end from where you put the V of triangles, and just eyeballing, you're going to start cutting halfway down until you get to just a little bit before this corner, maybe 1/8 of an inch. We're probably going to snip this. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do it now. Just snip that a little bit and it moves a little bit better that way. And that's it. That's all you need to do to this piece. So you should have a piece that looks like this now. Okay, don't be afraid of eyeballing things, because it does not have to be that exact for this. All right, so now you're going to come in here and you're going to take just this 3/4 of an inch by about 1/2 an inch and put adhesive right on here. And then underneath this piece here, just like before, you're gonna adhere that just to the left of this score mark so that it goes like this. Okay? And now you're going to fold it here, and you have this rectangle now that's about 1/2 an inch by 1 inch. Right? And you're going to put glue just on that rectangle. And you do want to get it right up to the score line because you want that completely adhered to the other side. Now, here's where you have to be careful, because if you close this and shut your card, this piece is going to glue to the front of this panel, and you don't want that. So you're going to want to shut this, make sure this piece goes over that big column we've put in there, and then you can shut the card. And so you want to close that and give it a little bit of time to stick. We are almost finished this mechanism, and the rest after that is so simple. So hopefully now, yep, see how it opens and closes. Yep, that's working fine. And now let's open that flat up for a second here. Because if we open it flat, it's easier to do this next bit. So now we're going to get our backward L, which I don't know what I did with it. I thought I put it on a blue piece so you could see it, and then did I flip it over? And all right, so you know what you do if you lose that? It's such a small piece and it requires so little. is you just get another square. Oh, here it is. It's right here. Why didn't you tell me, guys? All right. So now you have this V, and you've got a score line right in the middle. So you have a triangle right here, and you want to put the end of this L, or this bit, so that it's a backward L like this, adhered to just this triangle, not to this bit underneath and not to this side of the triangle. So you do want to not get glue everywhere, which it looks like I did a little bit, and my adhesive eraser is over there, but it's gonna be fine. Okay. I like to show projects so that if I can do them, everybody knows they can do them as well. Okay, so here's our arm piece, backward L. You want it to go in that triangle. The main thing is that at this stage in your triangle, the bottom of the L should be parallel with the bottom of your card. And I just realized something we hadn't stamped yet, but it's all right, we can do that now. So then you want to make sure that's in, and you'll see here is this L going, as I said, straight and parallel to the bottom of the card. But when you close it, I don't know if you can tell, but now it's going straight up and down. And that's how it's supposed to go. Now, when we put this card together at the end, the pieces that are coming out here and coming up are going to be stopped by this when we put it over it. Okay, so it's going to work just fine. But before we do that, we want to take our Balmy Blue arm, this piece here, and we're going to stamp Merry Christmas. That is also part of the Very Cute stamp set. Ink it up in the Misty Moonlight. And this is 3/4 by 4 inches. It can be trimmed down a little bit. I am right about, yep. But the main thing you want to know is that you want to bring this greeting as far over to that right end. Like I'm going to try and make it just at the bottom and all the way over to this end. And that's because some of this is going to be hidden behind the stamped image that we have here. So if you were to center this more, when your card comes out, you could have it like this and you'd only see Christmas. And we want to make sure that we see the whole Merry Christmas. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and glue our bear right on top of the Merry Christmas. And I do that just by literally putting a little bit of glue on his paws, on each of his 4 paws. And that's enough to keep our bear attached to this little arm mechanism. There we go. And then you are going to want to adhere it on here. Now what I like to do is make sure that when I put him on, all of Merry Christmas comes out. And you can see that I think I'd like it to come out just that little bit more. So instead of taking it all the way to the end of this arm, and this is where I can show you, you don't have to do this because you could just leave that hanging, but I want to show you how it doesn't matter if it's exactly the same size. I'm just cutting a piece of that off. Really, just as long as it's an L shape, you can trust it to work. All right, so I'm going to put glue on the bottom half of this backward L. Cap my glue. Best thing you can do in between steps is put that lid back on your liquid glue. Otherwise, the consistency of the glue actually changes and you might find it harder to work with. So you do want to make that a habit. So now I've put this arm on. It doesn't matter that he's coming out. In fact, I think it's kind of, you know, it shows even more what the arm is doing if he actually comes outside of this card, because when he goes up, he's not sticking out. He comes down like that. So now all we have to do is make sure that when we put this card on, that he gets hidden behind it, and he sure enough is gonna do that. So last thing to do here, it's not really the last thing because we still get to put those sequins, those glimmer sequins on to do that last bit of decorating. But if you put the glue right on this piece, then you know you're gonna be okay. So I'm gonna just basically do him even with, so that there's like the same border on the top and the bottom here. So I'm measuring here and here. I mean, I'm just eyeballing it because, as I said, that's what I do. And keep that closed. And while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and find me some of those adhesive-backed glitter sequins. That's what they're called. And I want to make sure, yep, here we go. Here's some I've already started rather than opening a new pack. Get this sheet out. There we go. All right, let's see, how's that going? Look at that. Isn't that fun? I'm gonna put him a little bit closer. You can slightly see that mechanism. The other reason why I love the liquid glue is because you still have time to move it. Isn't that nice? What do you think of this background as opposed to the snowflakes that I used on the first card? And then he disappears back up there. Isn't that fun? Okay, we have to add, I should have my take your pick tool, which I do have, but I don't have it with me right here. So I am gonna do it the old-fashioned way, and I'm gonna use the end of my scissors, making sure that when I pick up some of these pretty snowflakes that I am getting the adhesive that's on the bottom. And let's see, I'll put a piece there. I like to use the Balmy Blue on the inside. And then, isn't that nice? I saw somebody at the stamp camp took one of these blue pieces and stuck it right there on the scarf, and I thought that looked really nice, so I'm gonna do the same thing here. I mean, I do realize that makes these polar bears look like twins, right? Well, maybe it's the twin brother coming to visit. What do you think? All right, and then I'm gonna put some of these white ones on the front. And so it's just, I don't know how well it shows up on the camera, but it just gives a little bit of sparkle and festivity to the snow that's already coming down on here. So I like it. Where am I going to put this last one? Toot, 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 toot. Right here. There we go. So there you have it. The finished card. Warm wishes. Christmas is better together. So in the comments, I'd love to hear if you prefer the white polar bear or the vanilla polar bear on vanilla. And if you prefer the background with the snowflakes or the background with the footprints. Thanks for watching and let me know. Bye.